I was asking the question at one point if your average Christian on the street, whatever that expression means, would be able to forgive God if this person had found out that there is no afterlife. And I had a good number of people respond and say that no, they couldn't, and that they don't think a Christian could either, and that they need some sense of ultimate justice, some ultimate recompense. They think that the Christian covenant not only means a kind of personal salvation and an ultimate justice that's meted out according to some, I guess, ultimate sense of recompense and a promise kept with those who live the life of Christ or something like this. And I the more that I think about it, the more that it's really a struggle for me to try to deal with people who seem unwilling to accept their own death and who seem to be caught in what's a kind of either or fallacy, that either you have eternal life and ultimate judgment, or the proper response is naturalistic atheism. I don't know why those seem to be the two options that people seem to waver between. Um, and I think maybe if I would go back, maybe the problem is in the word choice of forgiveness, right? So if somebody says, could you forgive God if there is no life after death? Then the person would say, well, if you say forgive, that would mean that God would have done something wrong, and God is beyond all wrongdoing. Now, if that's true, well, then it seems like, well, who says God's beyond all wrongdoing? I mean, I'm not sure. That's not the Old Testament God. That's certainly not the God of the ancient Greeks. Certainly not the Stoic, their notion of divine providence or the gods or the fates. Um, but I think, okay, so this modern Christian God of the New Testament, the New Covenant, this is a covenant which I guess wants to say that there is basically a personal afterlife and there's a kind of salvation, and it's um, again I think it's something that is maybe helping people to hide from justice in this world, forgiveness in this world, grand forgiveness. But then the person says, well, how is it that God, who's supposed to be all good, all loving, all perfect, could allow this ultimate evil, death, and with no justice? Perhaps it might not even be remembered. Like, let's just say someone's a biologist and they say, well, even if I believe that there is a divine mystery behind everything that we see, and I need recourse to a divine mystery to explain how the universe came into being. The person, I guess, right, is I think in this situation, it's as if we're still stuck, right? We're still stuck with this need for, at least the modern Christian is, they're stuck with this need for ultimate recompense, where I wonder if we can't say, okay, maybe it's not forgiveness then. I mean, if they're really stuck with this all good, all loving God, maybe we say that, okay, you don't need to forgive God because there's nothing wrong. The problem is with those dogmatic theologians who've talked people into the idea that death is a problem, or that death and hardship aren't part of the gift of life. Yeah, so if I start to say that life itself is a gift and death is a gift, and the problem is in those people who don't know how to accept the gift, then I can rephrase the question. I rephrase the question and I say, can I, or here's a better way to say it, can a person who's a Christian, can they forgive the cosmos for having released organisms, creatures, into a self-awareness such that these creatures now are unable to forgive the cosmos for having given them self-awareness without some fantasy of a happily ever after? And can you forgive that wrongdoing? Not that death is the wrongdoing. I don't think when I say, can a person forgive God for death and for the no afterlife, I don't think the wrongdoing is on the side of the God. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to suggest here is, even if a person does want to maintain an all good, all wonderful, all knowing God who wouldn't allow evil, we get into this problem of evil in theology. I think the question of, can one forgive the cosmos for the fates, the gods, God? Can people forgive that for the self-awareness of an organism who is fated to die? Can we forgive those people who have dogmatically persuaded people into fantasies and persuaded people into what cannot be? Now, someone might argue, well, still, people need fantasies. We need the sense that there is life after death, and maybe there is. I don't know. Who knows? There certainly could be life after death. But if there isn't life after death, I think I am, at this point in my life, I'm willing to forgive it all. I'm willing to call the mystery beautiful and harmonious and sacred. I think I'm also willing to say that death itself is a kind of gift. And if it leaves no trace and there is no record or recollection in the, I mean, maybe there's a recollection or a memory in the mind of God, whatever that would mean. I don't know what that would mean. But I think if that comforts people, that's a beautiful thought. To think that you want to be and live a life that will be God's most cherished memories. And what would it mean to imagine a universal mind who could take pleasure in a kind of fruit that was able to shape and grow itself and become ambrosia, right? I mean, ambrosia is the word for food of the gods. Perhaps we're ambrosia, trying to grow ourselves and to be consumed and then hopefully to be a happy afterthought. I think those are funner fantasies, right? Those are more fun in the celebration of what it means to be human, in the ability to tell it like it isn't. And those, I think, are beautiful. So I'm not trying to suggest that there isn't something nice about the idea of the afterlife. It's when it becomes dogmatic and when it's basically fear from death that's being hid from. I guess that's part of the problem that's going on in there. So I guess, to just wrap up here then, I think the question is, can people learn to forgive the cosmos for being self-aware and yet finite? And it's not as if the cosmos did something wrong and the wrongness needs to be forgiven. Is, can we forgive those traditions which have taught us all of the different ways to hide from the gift that death is? And okay, very good.